Welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday. I'm one of your hosts, Matt. It says so like right here. That's me.
You were just going to take all of the credit there, weren't you, bud?
You know what? I can make this easy. You want to do it? There. Neal's nowhere to be found now. Welcome to the Matt Show. I can't do it. I can't do the show without So this is my trusty co-host, a little sketchy, Neal.
All good things are a little sketch, right?
Yeah. So you'll probably recall from never seeing us before that we're from Technest Consulting in Indiana, and we do this on the weekly to bring you a few of tech's hot stories, mostly so you don't have to read because it's hard. Reading is really hard.
Almost as hard as typing.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, with that, you know what? Let's hop right into it. So first up on Could Have Told You Better. BuzzFeed is covering a story that's going around the country about the DEA actually doing some covert surveillance on protesters that are coming out for Black Lives Matters movements and protests. And it turns out there's been a few of those lately. And people have questions. They're wondering why that's happening. This feels very much like a Neal story. Because it has to do with privacy and kind of liberty, but yeah, I think this is pretty interesting to see the number of agencies actually that are involved in this. So people are finally starting to ask like the right questions, but as you know, we'll see if we actually ever get an answer to the why.
Yeah, I actually almost put an article about IBM pulling out of facial recognition software because of this stuff as well. So there's a little bonus article there for you guys. But yeah, I mean this honestly doesn't really surprise me that much. As disheartening as it is, it doesn't really surprise me. I am glad that people are actually becoming aware of it and speaking up. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we see some positive change in that area, but I don't know, it just feels like an area that's gone really unchecked for a while. And so I think pulling those liberties and freedoms back is going to be very difficult.
It's true.
And we definitely have like larger issues to deal with than that. So hopefully we can get to that at some point, but I'm fully on support of down the train of getting other people liberties that I obviously have the privilege of because I am a white male. So, but in other news, the Twitch world has really kind of been rocked over the last week or so, with loads of streamers getting hit with copyright claims, like kind of out of the blue. And it's a bunch of them all at once. And so, yeah, I mean, this is on clips that can be sometimes over a couple years old. And what's making a bad situation worse for content creators is that the platform doesn't really have a way to bulk delete clips of their streams. And there's no real good way to look through things or look through the clips quickly at all. So yeah, I mean, obviously Twitch has to abide by the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. But Twitch also has a policy of basically like you get 3 copyright strikes and then you're permanently banned from their platform. And I think Twitch has actually come out and said, hey, like we understand that this is a new thing that hasn't really happened. But it is sending some shockwaves through the platform with a lot of large streamers worried that they could potentially lose their streams, which would really not be cool because a lot of people, that's their livelihood now. So yeah, it's very interesting that this is kind of the first time this has happened via Twitch, because I remember when Twitch was very early on, they kind of had this like hands-off approach to it where it was very much like, okay, we don't really care. Yeah, but it's definitely not the case anymore. So
yeah, it's interesting to see Amazon, Twitch having Google problems. So kind of went through this a few years ago with kind of like the content ID system and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, interesting. Well, in other news, if you have a Raspberry Pi and you've always just dreamed of running the Mac OS on it, it's still too bad you're not going to. But I still think it's kind of cool that Apple's looking at ARM-based processors. And by cool, I mean I think it's a terrible move. Like, so they shifted off of PowerPC. Gosh, what was it, in the late 90s, and moved to the Intel chipset, right, which really kind of unified with the x86, made it really easy for everybody to write programs, to know that they were going to be, cross-device compatible, and really thought that that's where everything was going. But there's been a rift lately with Intel, and it looks like now they're kind of, going their own way and going back to ARM, which is a reduced kind of it's a reduced resurrection is what it is. No, it's a reduced instruction set, kind of similar to those used in like Chromebooks and other mobile devices, right? So they're meant to be used on like reduced power. And there is a lot of benefits there, and I can see where that might be lining up with some of their other devices like the iPhone and iPad and so on and so forth. But I'm not real pleased by this. I think this could be a real problem for developers.
Yeah, I don't know. Without having that experience of having to develop for two different, I guess, architectures really is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
I can't really speak to that, but I wonder if this is going to be an issue like when we move off of like silicon chips to something else. If they're going to need to architect them in some way that's different. Yeah, I mean, it could be a play at that. I don't know. It's hard to tell without actually being involved in that, but it certainly could make our lives as developers significantly more difficult, which I'm not very happy about.
Yeah, it's about us.
That's right. Well, what has been one of the more annoying things of recent years is robocalling. And I am so happy about this that robocallers could be facing $225 million in fines from the FCC. Yeah, that's a lot of money. The only problem with this, and I wouldn't go ahead and start rejoicing yet, is that the FCC and the FTC don't actually have the authority to enforce the collection of these fees. Really, only the Department of Justice does. But this is kind of a great first step. Individuals in the lawsuit are John Spillner and Jacob Mears, who formed a pair of companies making millions of robocalls a day with the aim of selling health insurance from their more than shady clients. What's interesting about this, or what I find interesting about it, is that they obviously ignored the do not call list, but what's even more crazy to me is that they actually used it to target people. So they were actually using the list and saying, oh, cool, these people don't want to be called, we're calling them, and like use them to target that. So what's also interesting is that they were using spoof numbers. So if you ever got like a random callback with angry people, these people were more than likely using your number to make these calls. I have been the victim of that before, and I hung up and I just started laughing because I knew exactly what happened.
That's crazy. I feel like they've been doing this with email for a long time. Like people said, like, well, every time you click unsubscribe or remove me from this list from something that you never signed up to begin with, you're really just validating that you're a real person and that you should check your email.
Yeah, that's kind of the approach that I've taken with like robocallers, is just like don't pick up because I don't want them to know that it's a real number. I don't know if that actually works or not, but yeah, that's always kind of been the approach I've taken, is that if I don't know the number and it comes up as potential spam on my iPhone, I'm like, nope, not going to pick that one up then.
Well, you and I have played quite a few hours of Destiny and Destiny 2 on Xbox. So I thought this news was actually pretty impressive, because you know how expensive the games can get, and you have like your expansions. But Bungie has announced that when the PS5 and the Xbox Series X upgrades come, you're going to get, if you're a player and who has a valid license to it, you're going to get a free upgrade so that you can actually play these on the next gen devices without going to have to repurchase those games and things that you might already have in your library. I think that's really cool. And I think it goes a long way towards bridging people onto next gen systems. I think it's a really smart play on their part.
Yeah, I think it is a really smart play. I'm very curious because a lot of people in the Destiny community thought that this was going to be like this launch was going to be pretty large, but a lot of resources were actually being put into like Destiny 3, which I definitely thought was going to be coming with the new platform. So it's very interesting that they're basically saying, yeah, you're going to get a free upgrade. And then they're going to basically have 3 years of Destiny still lined up. So that one, it's really cool, but it's like, well, a little bit of a disappointment because I know for me personally, Destiny fell short in a lot of places, or Destiny 2 rather fell short in a lot of places that I really liked out of Destiny 1. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully they can get those things kind of cleaned up over the next few years. And I think we're seeing things trend positively. But who knows? We'll see. I think a lot of other like long-standing games may take this approach as well, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people are starting to take notice. But yeah, it'll be kind of fascinating to see kind of how it all shakes out.
So a small startup called Whatify is taking on $1 billion giant, Quibi, and actually, I believe is going to beat them at their own game. Whatify takes mobile films and creates choose your own adventure activities that you can enjoy and vote on like key decision points with your friends. So this is very social centric. They want you to enjoy these things with your friends, kind of just have like viewing parties or like getting together. But they make it very easy to do that. If you think back to Black Mirror Bandersnatch, it's very much like that, only it's deeply rooted in the social experience. So they want you, like I said, to view these with friends. For gamers out there, it's very much like Telltale's The Walking Dead or Life is Strange games. So if you enjoy those, more than likely you'll enjoy these. I really, really hope that this type of media grows and continues to get investments because I think it's an incredibly cool way to storytell. And it allows users to actually feel engaged in the story that they're actually consuming. And that's just something that's really, really neat, in my opinion. So I really hope that this continues to grow.
Yeah, this is definitely something we've talked about several times throughout the years of this concept of taking like the old school kind of choose your own adventure and almost like role playing into the set of movies and TV. I want to believe that this is kind of one of those next big things. So I'm really rooting for him.
Yeah, we've been saying it's like the next big thing for a couple years now, and it's just needed to get some money behind it. So yeah, I think we're both totally on board because we both really enjoy these types of media. So all right, and with that, that's all we have for today. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Tech Talk Tuesday. If you want to read up on any of these headlines, you can find them in the description below. And be sure to subscribe to this channel.
They can describe it too if they want to.
Yeah, you can describe it too. Just describe it to yourself, your friends, whoever, but subscribe to the channel. That way you don't miss any future editions of Tech Talk Tuesdays. And while you're at it, just go ahead and give us a follow on those social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And with that, we will see you next Tuesday.